Now, it's been revealed that the Queen spent Wednesday night in hospital after doctors advised her that she should cancel her trip to Northern Ireland and rest for a few days.
It is unusual for the Queen to cancel a planned trip. She likes to always do them if they're in the diary. But the palace is stressing that she's in good spirits this morning. The 95-year-old has been seen in recent weeks using a walking stick, which we've not seen her do before, and this has prompted all sorts of concerns for her health.
Joining us to discuss this is the ITV News Royal Editor Chris Shipp and former Press Secretary to the Queen, Dickie Arbiter. Dickie, I mean, the Queen has very rarely spent time in hospital, particularly overnight. This is a real rare moment. Is it cause for concern?
Look, it's always cause for concern when anybody goes into hospital. It's you, me, the Queen, and the Queen at 95. Yes, I suppose there is cause for concern. But she did go on for tests and for observation. There's been a lot of speculation as why did she spend overnight in hospital? Well, by the time she got to hospital on Wednesday afternoon and the hospital staff had done their tests, it was probably too late to start getting in the car and going back to Windsor Castle. So rather than subject her to the 20-mile or so trip to Windsor, they kept her in overnight and discharged her on Thursday. That she's back at Windsor, that she's been reported to be in high spirits, that she's got to working on her red boxes, it all good signs that she's okay and just needs time to rest. She had a very punishing programme in October, and I suppose the real thing that knocked her back was the reception on Tuesday night, because it is hard work, and she is 95, and we've got to take recognition of that.
Chris, I suppose one of the reasons why we sort of tend to pull apart every announcement by the Queen is because detail is so minimal and we're all so concerned. But the fact that she stayed in overnight at hospital was something that wasn't immediately made obvious. Should that make us worry more that there's something more sinister going on, or just because they were trying to keep things quiet and calm?
Well, they certainly were trying to keep things quiet and calm. In fact, I think if the Sun newspaper hadn't tried to splash this on its front page this morning, I don't think Buckingham Palace would have told us at all that she'd gone to hospital, which, you know, has all sorts of questions in itself. Yes, she is the head of state, and therefore, you know, should we know what her state of health is? But equally, she's an individual who's entitled to some form of medical privacy. But, you know, by all accounts, she wasn't rushed in by helicopter. She drove in by car after cancelling that trip to Northern Ireland. But, you know, it was only at 10:10 last night that Buckingham Palace told us that she'd had a hospital stay the night before, when at the time they were saying that she was resting up in Windsor. So I think some questions for the Palace about why we didn't know what the Queen was up to and where she was on Wednesday night. But equally, if you look at her health situation, as Dickie said, 95 years old, all of this really is just a reminder of her advancing years. Yes, the use of the walking stick fairly recently, we were told that was just for her comfort. But, you know, very unusual for the Queen not only to cancel an event, but unusual for the Queen, of course, to stay overnight in hospital. She hasn't had an overnight stay in hospital since 2013.
Yes, exactly. It feels like a significant thing because of that. She was treated at the Edward VII Hospital, wasn't she, in London, private hospital where the royal family are often treated. You and I, Chris, have to go to hospital perhaps for more minor things than we might worry about for the Queen, because that's our access to certain care. I guess the fact that she went to hospital and stayed overnight, when I'm sure many tests could be done at home if necessary, I guess makes people wonder whether it's the pointer to something more concerning.
Yeah, any trip to hospital raises questions about her health. You know, why did she cancel that visit to Northern Ireland at very, you know, late notice? For example, some palace staff had even turned up in Belfast ready to welcome her on Wednesday for the, you know, to mark the centenary of partition in Northern Ireland. So they weren't aware that the Queen was cancelling her plans. And yet, you know, we've been talking about her very busy October, like it started in Balmoral with like tree planting with Prince Charles for her sort of Jubilee tree planting programme. She's been to the Scottish Parliament, the Welsh Parliament. She's been to Windsor Castle. She's had receptions at Buckingham Palace. She has been busy, although the Palace tell me no more busy than normally, no more busy in October, they told me, than she was in June, for example. But I think it's all a reminder, but this is quite a lot for a 95-year-old woman who, you know, for most people would have been retired for 30 years, and that she's still got quite a busy schedule. But I will tell you this as well, Kate, you know, I heard that in Balmoral over the summer, when she was there for her summer break, that she was actually riding horses 4 or 5 times. So it gives you an idea of actually very fit and remarkable woman at 95. But yes, very concerned we should be that she's had to go to hospital for tests.
Thank you, Chris. Dickie, I mean, as Chris says, we get this impression of Her Majesty, which is just remarkable. What she's been through, reigning for so many years, seems very fit. But there is a question about the amount of work she does. I mean, 15 engagements over this year alone, including some online.
I think,
you know, which is it in the month? Sorry, is it
15
in the month?
formal ones over this
15
month,
formal
yeah.
just in the month, which is quite incredible. Will that decision ultimately be hers, Dickie, or is it that these offers are put to her, and then what we know about Her Majesty perhaps finds it very difficult to say no to lots of them? How does that decision-making process happen? Because I think a lot of us would be quite happy and content to see her not do very much, really. Have we lost Dickie? Dickie, can you hear me? Oh, that's really unfortunate. We've lost Dickie. Chris, you might have come on that very quickly. I mean, the workload is a real concern. Do you think it's her decision in the end, and that's just the kind of person she is?
I mean, they will make decisions with her. And I know that the Palace are always looking at her diary to see, you know, does it match what she's able to do at her age? And you've only got to think of some quite big decisions that have been made in recent years. For example, in 2017, when they said, actually, the Queen's no longer going to lay the wreath at the cenotaph on Remembrance Sunday because you have to sort of walk backwards down some steps after laying it. And that sort of particular duty was handed over to Prince Charles. So they're always looking at things in her diary. I think what this will do, it's kind of like a wake-up call, I think, not just to her aides and her private secretary, but also to the Queen herself about, let's look at the diary, let's see if actually October was too much. You know, those 10 to 15 engagements that she did in October, is that too much for you now? And should we now be sort of changing your diary to reflect your age? She remains the head of state, of course, but she might have to sort of just say no to a few more things. Yeah,
OK. Thank you, Chris Shipp, ITV News Royal Correspondent. It is amazing when you think about that. 95, doing 15 engagements in a month. Riding horses. I mean, it's... She is made of something.
That's impressive at any age, I feel. And we should say thank you to Dickie too. Good to speak to both of you this morning.
And Her Majesty, if you are watching, we wish you a speedy recovery.
Yeah.